While I'm browsing at the thrift store, I'm always looking for items that can be turned into completely different things. I'm going to begin by removing the price tags off the votive holders and then using a bit of rubbing alcohol just to give these a good thorough clean. Then I'm going to come in with some napkins. I'm going to be removing the two sets of ply underneath the pattern design. To begin this part of the project, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the napkin down into strips. Once I've cut the napkin down into even strips, I'm going to go ahead and come in with some Mod Podge, and we're going to take our first vessel and we're going to do a strip of Mod Podge going down one side of the glass vessel over the top and then back down the other side. Then we're going to take a strip of napkin and we're going to place it down over the Mod Podge, lightly patting it into place so that we don't rip the napkin. Then I'm going to continue doing this pattern, working across the vessel, working in strips, making sure I've covered the entire thing. I'm going to come in and add another layer of Mod Podge over the whole thing once I've done the strips. Once it's completely dried, I'm going to use a pair of scissors to cut off the overhanging edges of napkin. And then I'm going to come in with a sanding block and I'm just going to go around just doing a rough little sand to make sure I've got rid of all the unsmooth edges of napkin. To finish off the edge, I'm going to take this acrylic paint marker and I'm going to go all around the bottom edge of the glass vessel just to give it a nice gold finished look. Then I'm going to bring in my little wine glasses that I got. These I got for $1.29 each, which I thought was a great price. And I'm going to use these battery operated tea lights that I got from the dollar store, and I'm going to put them in the bottom of the little wine glasses. Place the glass vessel over top, and what I've created here is some tiny little mini lamps. And I think these are so cute, so adorable, and such a different way to use some glass vessels from the thrift store as well as some tiny wine glasses. So I have this little bud vase here that I also got at the thrift store. And when I saw it on the shelf, it was next to this little bowl. And when I put them together, they created the cutest little lamp. But because this bud vase is so small, the opening is very tiny, I'm not able to get a tea light in there. So I got the idea to get these mini string wired lights, and I'm going to feed them down into the bottom of the bud vase. Once I've done that, I'm simply just going to tape the remaining wire to the back of the bud vase, and then I just have to put the batteries in the battery pack and it lights up. But I think this is a great start to this project, and while I was doing this, I even had the idea that you could switch out the lights for different colors of different seasons. I've placed it here in my kitchen and it looks so cute, especially at nighttime with the lights off. It kind of acts as a little night light. So I hope this idea inspires you to get creative with things that you find around the thrift store to make some mini lamps of your own.
I grabbed some mirror paint and thrifted light fixtures. I added a splash of vinegar to a spray bottle with water and lightly sprayed the inside of the glass light fixture. Next, I sprayed the mirror paint on the inside and drained the extra water and paint out. I sprayed the light fixture base black. Once dry, I painted antique gold rub and buff on it, leaving some of the black showing. Once dry, I added battery fairy lights.
Head to the thrift store and pick up a set of matching glasses. I'm grabbing a block of candle wax. I'm going to take this all to the stove, let it melt completely. I'm going to set it aside and let it cool. I'm going to add wicks to these glasses. Now I can pour the wax into each candle, and I'm going to let this set for a full 24 hours. Grab a candlestick, grab yourself a little container, and pour in some Mod Podge. Then you're going to add a few drops of food coloring and just apply a coat over the entire outside of the candlestick. Now I'm going to add a little bit of blue and then make another candlestick. My glass is covered. Just set these aside for an hour or two.
Once your jar candle is almost used up, let the candle cool and then pop it into the freezer for at least 2 hours. Wedge the edge of the knife into the side of the remaining wax. Now soak the jar with some hot sudsy water and then wipe the inside of the jar with a cloth or sponge. If you have a jar candle with a lid, remove the candle wax in the same manner. Take the lid of the jar and place painter's tape around the side of the lid. Now, spray paint the top of the lid. Take a used wine cork and attach it to the top of the lid.
We're going to start today's DIY with a remote controlled light bulb. So we're going to take that little holster and we're going to glue that to the top with hot glue. And And then we're gonna put in our light bulb. We're gonna take a clamp so that we can add that on top in order to hold your lampshade. Take that finial piece, screw that back on so it's nice and snug.
You want to make sure that you have a nice clean surface. Rubbing alcohol is a good option. You'll need some sort of stencil and line that up and then just press down firmly. And it's really important here that you maintain the best seal possible. You'll want to take some painter's tape and put it around the surrounding edges. Now that you have your stencil in place, it's time to apply the etching cream. I typically do about a 5-minute time to allow it to sit, and then we'll rinse it off.
Run it under a stream of warm water and just allow the cream to gently rinse off.
Once you have the etching cream all rinsed off, you can go ahead and remove the stencil and the tape. But we're gonna take it one step further, and I'm going to be using this Rub and Buff product to add some color to it.
We are gonna grab a couple glass mason jars. You're gonna grab a small dish and you're gonna fill it with clear glue and a little bit of water. I used about 2 tablespoons of glue and about 1 tablespoon of water. Then I'm gonna drop in a little bit of food coloring. Then stir it up until it's mixed really well. Grab your mason jar, make sure it's nice and clean. Pour that dark blue mixture into the jar and swirl it around so it covers everything. Once you've swirled it all around, you can dump the excess back into the original container. Now we wanna let this drip for a little bit. Let it drip for about 10 minutes. Take a paper towel, wipe off any excess drips that are around the rim of the jar. Then place this upside down on a piece of parchment paper. Pop it in your oven at 175 for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, take it out, turn it right side up, and let it cool completely.
I grabbed some thrifted glassware for this brilliant garden decor. Then I grabbed some 2-part epoxy. I used a wood skewer to mix the epoxy and placed it around the bottom edge of one glass vase, then glued it to the bottom of the glass bowl. I set that aside and let it dry. I applied epoxy to the bottom of a different glass vase and placed the glass platter on top in the center. I grabbed the vase with the bowl and applied epoxy to the top and attached the third vase upside down, and applied epoxy to the top of the vase that is attached to the bowl, and I placed the other section on top.
Pick up a thrift store frame and remove the backing. Find a white mat that will fit the frame size. Hang the frame and mat on a wall. Find a small glass jar or vase. Take 2 command strips and stick the jar to the wall. You now have a 3D interactive wall art piece.
On one of my most recent trips to Dollar Tree, I came across these glass bowls, and as well I spotted these cool margarita glasses. I'm going to take some E6000 and I'm going to spread it around on the bottom of the margarita glass. And then I'm also going to apply some E6000 on the bottom of one of the glass bowls. Then I'm going to place it on top. I'm going to leave this to set. In the meantime, I'm going to take my second glass bowl and I'm going to take some E6000 and I'm going to take an old drawer pull and then place that on top.
Head on over to Dollar Tree and grab some of their candle holders for these awesome DIYs. I grabbed a candle holder and I filled it with dollar store rocks, about halfway full. I also had a boat from the fairy section at Dollar Tree, and I placed the boat on top of the rocks. This gives the illusion that the boat is floating on water. I grabbed a second candle holder and placed some more dollar store rocks on the bottom of that. I placed a pillar candle on top of the rocks. This candle holder display is going to be in memory of my grandpa. I have one of his fishing lures. I'm placing that in front of the pillar candle holder. Now it's time to assemble the whole display. I added a Dollar Tree mirror on top of the first candle holder, and then I placed the second candle holder with the pillar candle in it on top. This made a candle stack. I grabbed a second cylinder candle holder and placed a bag of sand from Dollar Tree into the bottom of the vase. I placed a pillar candle on top of the sand. I added some hot glue and a piece of nautical twine, and I wrapped the nautical twine around and around the vase with the sand. And I added a sand dollar that I had collected at the beach to the front of the nautical twine. I grabbed a candle holder from Dollar Tree and I added a bunch of shell necklaces that I had accumulated over the years into the vase. You can easily use shells if you prefer. This is great for a collection from your days and trips at the beach. I grabbed an old vase that I had and some Dollar Tree ribbon that looks like birch or aspen trees. I added some hot glue and wound the ribbon around the vase until I got to the top. I added an LED candle holder to the inside of this. I grabbed a second candle holder, and in the bottom I placed a bunch of black rocks from the dollar store, and then I had grabbed some pine cones from outside and placed those into the candle holder on top of the rocks. Now it's time to assemble it. These again are easily reversible. Here are all 3 candle stacks on display. You can have so much fun with this simple idea.
And I hope this inspires you to create some candle stacks of your own. Again, I'm Chas from Chas's Crazy Creations. Thanks for watching Home Talk, and I'll see you next time.